I'm originally from Hueytown, so grew up in Hueytown. Woo! Go Gophers, yes. And I have a daughter. She teaches accounting at Auburn, and so get some more Eagles, maybe. Uh, and then I've got a daughter, a freshman. So our oldest is at Auburn teaching, and our youngest is at Mississippi State. She just started a few weeks ago, and so this is Parents' Weekend at Mississippi State. And so when we were looking at a time to come, I'm like, well, if we could work it out where I'm already kind of driving that way, sort of, kind of. So it's, yeah, and my parents are here, my wife's parents are here, so it's kind of a really cool be able to come home and be with you all. I do have two other kids. Our second daughter is in Waco, Texas, and she went to Baylor, and she and our grandson and our son-in-law are in Waco. And then our third child is our son, and he's in Gulfport, Mississippi, is in pharmacy school. So we're in Richmond, and then all of our kids are not in Richmond. So it's a wonderful way to be when you're a granddad, to have your kid 24 hours away. So yeah. So anyway, hey, so I just have a question. Why are you here today? I just want to hear a little bit about why you chose to come out on a Thursday morning to hear about AI. Yes. All right. Well, that's good. Well, it's not good that it intimidates you, but it's good that you came out to not be intimidated. Hopefully, some of the tools we can show you today will change that. What about some others? Yes, it is becoming more prevalent. Any, yeah, that's a great question. That's a really good question. Yes. Awesome. Anybody else? Absolutely. Yes. That is a very good reason. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Anybody else? I'm just trying to make sure we try to cover everything that you're going to have. Uh-huh. Of course. Yeah. Awesome. Can we get the thing up? And you're going to have to forgive me. I am trying. We've been struggling with technology. I know that's kind of a weird thing. And I got here super early this morning so that we wouldn't struggle with technology, and we're struggling, and it is still not up there. So you're supposed to be seeing my slide right now. So I'm going to stop, and we'll start it up again. I have not, and I will not. Up, I see you. I don't know. We're going to blame it on Josh. I'm going to bring it down because my eyes are not that good. And once we get going, we'll go really well, I promise. Okay. So, anybody here afraid of AI? Okay, come on. I know more than this table is afraid of AI. Have you not seen the movies? Yeah? Okay. So I would say there's reasons. Sometimes, some things that you're worried about probably are legitimate. Other things are probably blown out of proportion. But I do think it's wise to be a little bit concerned about what's happening. And I promise I'll be totally engaged with you as soon as I get this set up. And it's up. Good. All right, so this is what you were supposed to be seeing when I was asking why you're here today. So my hope, we don't have a lot of time today, so this is about 2/3 of the time that we did in Montgomery. That probably could have been shorter, so hopefully we'll get this just right. And my idea for today is kind of whet your appetite so that you want to know more and that you will get into a learning mode. So if you're here and you're like, I'm totally against this, this is going to ruin everything, There's all these ethical issues, and life as we know it is over. Hopefully you'll move a little more to the positive side. And if you're one of the people who are like just using it for absolutely everything, maybe you'll actually hit pause and maybe ask a few questions about the ethics and the consequences of some of the things we're doing. So I have 4 presentations, and I'm going to go quickly through them, but I also want to allow time for us to interact and talk. So the lunch today will be kind of a working lunch. So we're going to have some assignments we're going to do over lunch, and we're just going to keep rolling. If you have a pressing question or you have a question, please raise your hand. It's probably good to break me up because once I get going, I'll keep going. Marion is here with us today. So Marion, you can stand up, come on. So Marion just graduated in May, and she is in the Journeyman program to do missions with us overseas. But I know Marion because this time last year, I wrote 2 job requests for interns, and she was our summer intern this summer at the International Mission Board. And just tell us a little bit about yourself and background as to your background with AI before this summer. She didn't know she was signing up for an AI internship, but I kind of tricked her.
Well, I'm born and raised in Selma, Alabama, so right around here. And I went to college for marketing and went to that international. I saw that internship posting, and I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And I showed up and realized I didn't actually know what I was doing. I thought maybe I'd be working on the moon or things like that, but then learning how we use social media and other just internet opportunities to share the gospel all around the world, and then also all of that was on an mission partner, and so that's when I started using AI for the first time at college. I had barely used it because it was kind of fun, that was my professors, but then I learned a lot, grew initially in using AI in just 2 weeks as an intern, and so it's not that hard even if you use it for the first time like I did, and then now it's part of poetry and everything.
Yeah, so you can sit down. Thank you so much. So she was, we kept her own, and Erin, the other intern, we kept them on actually after their 10-week internship. She's in the process. Hopefully will be going overseas in a few months, and we're hoping to keep them on throughout that. But now, pretty much all she does every day is AI. So she and another person are leading out, translating all of our training materials that we're doing for when missionaries are sent overseas. We do 7 weeks of training in Richmond, or just outside of Richmond, and we're translating all that material because a significant number of our personnel that is growing are not English first language people. I mean, that part of the convention is the fastest growing part of the Southern Baptist Convention. So you don't have to be only an English speaker to be sent out as an IMB missionary. We send out lots of languages, and so we're in the process of translating all that. How many documents and files and videos, and 700 training materials, and doing that in multiple languages. And so that's what she's doing right now. And 3-4 months ago, or I guess 5 months ago, she had never done any of that. So it's very possible to do some of this. I do want to kind of introduce you to what I do at the IMB. I did serve overseas for about 24 years. We were on missionary status. Worked with Frank and Cheetah Drinkard, who are here, or Frank's here. Worked in Latin America for all that time. In the last 11 or so years of that, I was the trainer for Latin America, and we lived in several countries around Latin America, the last being Lima, Peru. So our kids grew up overseas, grew up in different cultures, and throughout all that time, I was always the kind of person who was challenging the status quo of how we did things. So if this is the way we've always done it, I'm always the person asking, why do we do it that way? And is there not a better way that we could do this? And I know that sometimes that is kind of a threat to the status quo, but I think we should be constantly asking, why is it that we do things the way that we're doing it? And is there not a better way to do this? Not just efficiency, that is a huge part, but effectiveness as well. And so can we free up ourselves from the mundane stuff that nobody likes to do to be more involved in the things that we really like to do? So for me, I like to be around people. I like to drink good coffee. So I'm not drinking coffee this morning. And I like to just be around a lot of people. And so I don't want to be sitting behind my computer running spreadsheets all the time. So that's the kind of things that we solve big problems to try to get at the world's greatest problem, which is lostness. So my team that I lead is most of it's overseas, and we do things like digital engagement. So she mentioned that. So that's using social media to engage people where they are with the gospel. It is not, I'm at First Baptist, or I'm at this church. I don't want to name a church. I'm at this church, and we take a picture of what we're having for supper on Wednesday night, and we post that to our Instagram feed, and that is our social media presence. That is a stinky social media presence. That is not social media presence. That's really bad. And if you're doing that, I apologize. I wasn't calling you out. I was calling out other churches, not your church. We actually do, we learn about who people are in our community. So we lived in Homewood for a little while with First Baptist Birmingham is what we consider our home church now. Grew up in Hueytown, but for a long time went to First Baptist. And I look around Homewood and I think, what is it that keeps people up at night? And that's the question that we try to engage them with on social media. Not, hey, y'all come, we're doing this. Because I got news for you. They ain't watching your Instagram feed. They're not on your TikTok. They're not on your social media. But if you're engaging them and we're running ads that say, hey, are you lonely? Would you like to talk? We're here for you. Are you struggling with addiction? Can we pray for you? And we offer those out and we run those ads and then people respond. Last year we had around 78,000 conversations globally with people who responded to ads all over the world. And so we use this as kind of a filter. So if you're a pastor or if you're in this room and I told you, hey, this afternoon we're going to go do evangelism and we're just going to knock on doors and you're going to randomly knock on doors. Or I told you, hey, this side of the room is going to go knock on doors. I'm going to take this table. I've got 12 houses that have been begging us to come tell them about Jesus. So we're going to go over here. We're going to go tell these people that have been we've kind of filtered our audience. And you all can go knock on doors and probably get the door slammed in your face most of the time while we're going to zero in on that. So that's part of it. I'm not here to talk about digital engagement, but I think it's an awesome strategy that we are woefully missing in the church. So love to talk to you about that. Maybe we can do another trip when I come through to visit my kids. We can talk about digital engagement. Artificial intelligence is another part that I lead, and that's more specifically to my role. Most of my team is overseas. The digital engagement piece is all overseas. We'll talk a little more about digital engagement. Innovation incubator, so they may not know much about this, but like design thinking or empathy sprints or like Google, how you solve big problems. We have a part of our team is kind of an internal consulting team that helps our strategy teams overseas build out really good strategies for how to engage the community they're in or the people groups you're working with. And then digital communities is just realizing that most of the people that we deal with today spend more time on this than they do on anything else. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm just recognizing that's the reality. And so we can poo-poo this. Sorry, I hope I can say that. We can edit that out. We can talk poorly about cell phones and lament the fact that you shouldn't be on phones, but it doesn't change the fact that everybody in this room probably spends way more time watching cat videos than you should. And so it's just recognizing where we are. And so digital communities is part of our team this morning, driving up from Auburn. I had a call with our team in France, and we're looking at how do we build out spaces for people to have this robust conversation. How do we do theological education or leadership training differently, recognizing that more people are going to spend time on this than they're going to spend next door with their neighbor. Just like confession time, one of my best friends is here in Birmingham, the other's in Memphis, Tennessee. We went to high school together, 2 more Golden Gophers. And I spend every day chatting with them about something. Usually it's funny stuff that's happening in our lives. A new neighbor moved next door earlier this year. I've still not met them. I think that is not the way it should be. I'm not saying, oh, yay me. I'm just saying between my travel schedule and their availability, I can live 250 feet from someone and know nothing about them and have robust community with people all over the world through technology. And so that's just a reality. I'm not here to talk about those. But I did want you to know, like, I don't just do AI. We are really involved in getting the gospel out to the nations, and we'll show you some of those things. I also make available to you today only, I can only do 5 days a quarter with Amazon. This is a book that I wrote last year about how people don't read books. So I wrote a book about the fact that people don't read books, and I called it Unreadable, another book you probably won't read. And so you can scan that QR code and download it today for free on Amazon, or there's some copies back in the book back of the room, because I find that people love to get free books, but they don't like to read them. But they love to get books. They love to put them on their shelf and make people think they're reading those. So if you like that, no judgment. They're free. You can have it back there. Interesting thing about the book, if you don't want to read the book, if you'll just open the book, every chapter has a QR code. If you scan that QR code, my AI avatar will explain to you that chapter. So you don't have to read the book. You can just listen to my avatar tell you about the book that you're not going to read. So, all right. So that's all the promo stuff. Let's talk about AI. So some people, a lot of people are really surprised that the IMB is involved in AI. I don't know, were you surprised whenever you heard that somebody from the IMB is going to come talk to you about AI? I'll be honest, like I don't use an innovation. Like I lead an innovation team. That's my title. It's the coolest title in the world. Director of Innovation and Artificial Intelligence. I think that's so cool. I don't think of the church as being innovative. Maybe I'm the only one. But like I look at the church and I go, oh my gosh, we're probably going to be using Windows 95 still. And maybe we've got an iPhone, maybe. I just don't see us as being super innovative. And I think that's a shame. I have a whole sermon that I preach on innovation in the church, and I kind of walk us through the history of innovation. Like, the church historically has been one of the most innovative parts of society. We don't think about it, but the printing press, the Bible was printed, and all of a sudden now people have access to God's word that for generations had never had access. For generations, most people didn't read. Like, I mean, it was very, very, very small percentage of the world were illiterate. And the reason for that was books were handwritten, they were very expensive, and pretty much only the wealthy had access. Priests could not read. So there was this inaccessibility to God's word. But that changed everything with the printing press. Radio, telegrams, satellites. If you look back at the history of all of these innovations that have changed the world, the church was heavily involved in that. The first broadcasts that went out to the ships over radio were religious broadcasts. They were Christians who were creating these innovations. TBN came out a couple of years after CNN. So it's not like the church has been like lagging on this, and I'm not saying that all those inventions are greatest and wonderful things, but the church has been quite innovative. But in the last generation or two, the church has kind of been left out, in my opinion. We've kind of been left out of the innovation space, and we don't really see, we actually, unfortunately, we're kind of the people that sometimes bristle against change. And we bristle against, this is how we do it. I mean, that's Sister Susie's seat. Nobody sits in that seat. Everybody knows you don't sit there. I'm the guy who's going to go sit in Susie's seat. So, where does AI fit into this? Well, about 5 years ago, I was at a conference, and it was mostly Bible translators. I was definitely the dumbest person in the room. These were all really, really, really smart people who were using AI to explore how we are using AI to help in Bible translation. And I, at the time, was like, I don't know why I'm here. These people went to MIT. And so that's the other thing I needed to confess. Like, my undergrad degree is from UAB in accounting. I have an MDiv, and I have a PhD in missions and church history. So you don't see any computer science in any of those degrees. But I've always been the techie person in the room who could fix everything on your computers, and I really don't know why or how. If I were to go to school today, I would have different degrees, but those are the degrees I have. And so while I was at this meeting 5 or 6 years ago, I was thinking, wow, this is going to be a waste of time. Little did I know, it kind of sparked an interest in me of how we can use AI in missions and in the church. When ChatGPT came out, I'd been anticipating this, and so I'd been using some AI tools before that, but they were really hard to access. I mean, you had to write Python scripts to do anything, and all of a sudden, everybody had access. And it was kind of stinky 3 years ago. I mean, it wasn't that good. Still some things it doesn't do well. But I remember going to our leadership team about a month and a half later, and we were doing updates, and I was giving an innovation update, and I said, hey, you ever heard of Gutenberg? They were like, of course we've heard of Gutenberg. I said, well, we just had a Gutenberg, and it's going to be bigger than Gutenberg. And they were laughing. They were like, that's pretty funny. And I said, no, there's this thing called ChatGPT. And I really think this is going to change how we live our lives. Everything about how we live our lives in our coming generation. And we debated this for a little bit, and somebody called it ChatGPT and CBD and whatever. And I'm like, no, it's GPT, and I'm not going to explain what it means, but it's going to change. So that was in January of that year. By March of that year, I had taken a video that we had created in 50 different languages, and in an afternoon, I had dubbed that entire 20-minute gospel Creation of Christ video in another language and stitched it on top of that video where it was seamlessly part of that video. That was a 6-month process normally. I did it in an afternoon. I had a dub. This is not yesterday. This was early on in the AI stuff. And I played it for someone, and they thought, wow, that's pretty good. I think I know that guy. One of our missionaries in Brazil is like, I think I know that guy. It sounds like so-and-so. And I'm like, well, his name is Fabio, and he's not a real person. That is an entirely AI-generated voice. And that's how good it was, and they couldn't believe it. So we tweaked the video a little bit, made some corrections, and the next week we launched it, and we loaded it and started using that. So that's how quickly we can change stuff. That was 3 years ago, almost 3 years, about 2.5 years ago. Today, it is incredible. I mean, it's just so much better than that. So that's where we were. I want to talk a little bit about AI and the frustrations. If any of you, how many of you have used AI? Raise your hand. All right, put your hands down. How many of you have not used AI? How many of you, keep your hands up, keep your hands up. Those of you who came here, how many of you have Netflix? No, I'm sorry, the people with their hands up that have not used AI. Do you have Netflix? No? No? Yes. You've used AI. How many of you have Google Maps? You have Google Maps, Waze? You've used AI. You just didn't know that this was AI. And what's been happening is it's just become more and more and more embedded in everything. If you've ever opened up YouTube or Instagram and you start seeing over and over and over again the same stuff, you're, wow, I just want to watch one more of these. You know, for me, it's watching I've got these comics that I love, and they're just hilarious. I mean, Nate is just, I listen to him all the way down from Virginia. And they know that, and so what do? They feed those things to me, and that's AI that is feeding that. Guess what? That's the same technology we use to target people with our ads overseas. Because we know when people are depressed or lonely, or we don't, but the algorithm does. We start running those ads, and guess who sees those ads? People who are depressed, people who are lonely, people who need help, people who are addicted. So AI has been embedded, and it's all around us. So how many of you have tried to use AI and you go, yeah, this totally didn't work? All right, come on, because I have. I mean, any of you tried it, you like opened up ChatGPT or opened up Claude or whatever it is, and you go, yeah, this didn't get me. It gave me junk. Yeah? All right. So let me tell you a story. All right. So this, I don't know, I just made this with AI. A couple of years ago, I made this with AI. Today it would be much better. So this is an illustration I tell about if I were to go, pink-footed tarantulas. So I spent a lot of time in Suriname, and we had these pink-footed tarantulas, and they were terrifying. I've got tons of stories about those. But let's say that I wanted to learn more about pink-footed tarantulas. Yeah. That's the way you used to study. That's the way I still study sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. So this is supposed to be the Library of Congress. Have anybody ever been to the Library of Congress? Yeah, it is fascinating. Like, I was a congressional aide after college. I love Library of Congress. Man, it was awesome. They've got books about everything. But here's the thing. You got to know how to use the Library of Congress. Because, like, it's got a lot of books. And so I just think about, well, I want to learn more about pink-footed tarantulas. And what if I just went to the Library of Congress and I just started pulling books off the shelf, open them up, nope, nothing about pink-footed tarantulas, go to the next one, and I've got a whole table full of books that I just pulled off the shelf. None of them talk about pink-footed tarantulas, so I decide, well, the Library of Congress has nothing about pink-footed tarantulas. Well, I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure they do. The problem is, like, I didn't know how to use the tools of the Library of Congress to figure out, or go to somebody who knows. Like, when I was in congressional aid, I had a person at the Library of Congress. I could say, hey, yeah, the congressman is doing a speech on this. And they would, like, give me all this research, and here's these books and all these things. If this person, this fictitious, non-real person, had gone to the librarian and said, hey, I'm doing this research on pink-footed tarantulas, they could probably give you more than you ever wanted. If you had opened up their computer and went to their Library of Congress computers and did some searches, you'd have had information. But I find that most people who just decide that AI is useless and just full of junk have never been taught how to use AI. They just assume, I've tried it, I got a bunch of junk. So here's the deal. AI is not Google. Google is quickly becoming AI, but AI is not Google. Like, you don't go to AI and just type in, how many championships did Alabama really have? You don't just type that in. That was supposed to land a little better, but it didn't. You don't just type that into Google. You type that into Google and you'll get like 500 websites that are going to argue, and they'll be mostly Alabama and Auburn people arguing. If you go to AI and type that in, you may get something, but it's like AI is more like a guru or an expert on something. You go to and ask it questions, and then it kind of gives you some information, and you kind of interact back and forth with it. I don't go to Google and say, oh, tell me more. Oh, tell me more. I mean, it would just give me searches on tell me more, and it wouldn't work. So I'm going to use Marianne as a good example, and Erina, our other intern for the summer. So they both came, and I mean, we had, 17 interns at the IMB this summer, and we had the best two, hands down. We just had the argument again at staff meeting yesterday. Hands down, the two best. They came in full of enthusiasm, like excited about the work, but not really, not a lot of background in exactly what we needed them to do. But they learned very quickly. I liken AI to like an absolutely awesome college intern who has tons of enthusiasm to help you, and it has access and a lot of knowledge that I don't even have. Like, there's stuff that I ask them to do, or both of them, that they just whip it out like that, and I'm kind of a techie person, and I'm like, I don't know how they did that, but I'm happy to have them. But I wouldn't want them going and making a presentation to Paul Chitwood their first week on the job. Like, that wouldn't have been, Paul's the president of the IMB. Like, I wouldn't want them to, I'm going to go speak about AI to the president. That's probably more my job at that point. Although at the end of it, they both did do huge presentations for enormous departments after 10 weeks being there. So AI knows a lot of stuff, but you've got to be the one, you're the subject matter expert that kind of guides the AI to give you the good information. So that's, I just say, usually there's a lot of naysayers in the room. I would just say, give it some chance, work with it, and by the end of today, I'm going to send you out of here with some tools that are already built, and you can just go play with them and use them like you would Google. All right, so here's a video I'm going to try to play. This is an example. Sorry, our technology isn't working great. I have to use the mic.
Today, I just got to share the gospel with somebody who'd never heard it in their own language. Somebody told me back when I was an 8-year-old that I'd be on this kind of adventure. I wouldn't have believed them. Ever since I was a little girl, I'd always read these stories and think, what would it be like if I could actually live like Paul? If I could see God work like they do? What if I gave everything to God? What could happen? What started as a whisper grew louder and louder until I had to do something about it. If you had any idea how many times over these past years that I thought this was never going to happen, I could only daydream. But now it's my reality. So here I am. And when God says go, you go.
So this is a video. Any of you do video editing, videography? Yeah, a couple of you. All right. If I were to ask you, say, hey, we've got a P3000 Explorer serving in a South Asian country. We'd like for you to do a 1-minute promo video featuring her and all the work that they do. What would be your turnaround time to get something like that put together? I mean, you'd need to go there. So what would be a cost to do something like this? How long would it take you to edit a video like this with a number of cuts and all the stuff that we had? Let's say you had the B-roll, like we already shot the video for you. Yeah. So I'll tell you, I've done this kind of stuff. It would take me months. I don't do it all the time, but it would take me forever. Like even scripting it out, like how do I script out? What are we going to say? What can we say? How can we show her? How do we not get in trouble? How do we not get arrested and thrown in jail? How do we shoot people in a way that doesn't, there's all these things that go into the artistic creativity of this. And this is something that South Carolina Baptist is doing for their P3000. That's kind of a young missionary group that we're sending out to do exploring in unreached, closed places. They did this, and it cost around $3,000 to do this video. And it was quite quick how quickly they did it. So this is like one example. I'm not saying that any of you are going to leave here today going, I can do that this afternoon. No, you're not. It does take a skill set. It helps if you are a video editor to begin with, because there's some stuff that they stitched in, not using AI, but most of this video was created with AI. And it was the first one they did. So we're working on doing more and more of those types of videos. So it's just one example of how we are using AI. We're also doing more evangelistic videos that are very contextualized for different places in the world using AI to kind of do some of the generation. All right, I'm going to pause because I've been speaking a lot and ask, do you have any questions before we move into the next session? Yes. Okay, good question. This question was, how do you ensure accuracy? So we've heard the stories of like the lazy lawyer, plural, who just use AI to write their briefs and then submit it to the judge and everything was totally made up. Well, that's stupid. Like, what were they thinking? I still do. We keep what we call human in the loop. So like we don't deploy AI and say, okay, go do this for me. People laugh. Well, I could just tell AI, book me a family vacation to Europe. Well, no, I'm probably going to want to have some input into that. And so having the human part of that and to do the checking. So I use AI for things to give me ideas, like to ideate on a workflow. It's one of the ways I use it. And then I will go back and check some of those things. And as silly as this is going to sound, like you can just tell the AI, cite your source. And it'll cite your source. And if you click the link and it goes to a 404 page, or there's nothing on the link, oh, they may have made that up. So we'll get into we will get into, like, this is one of the issues of AI is hallucination. So how you build out those AI tools actually totally influences the reliability of the data. So Marianne, I don't know, I'm going to put her on the spot. She created just some awesome prayer videos, she and Aaron. So we were given this assignment, hey, we need 50 prayer videos on 50 people groups. They have to be exactly 90 seconds each. What's the timeline on that? Well, I would tell you, like, normally that would have been a laugh. Like, unless you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars outsourcing that to people who could just throw people at building out that, and then you still got to correct all their errors that they put in it. So do you have, like, can you, in 2 minutes, explain the process that you all did and how you checked it and everything? You want to stand up so they can capture you? I know.
So to make these videos, maybe like an hour or two before the meeting, we found out this was the ask. So we sat down and used an AI tool to make this, and so we would tell an AI tool, hey, this is the people group that I want this video to be on, and it would give us a script, and so it had timestamps on it. It had, we would tell it we wanted to have a prayer at the end or prayer points for this people group, and so it would put that in there. And then we would put that in an AI tool that would create the avatar, like it would have an AI voice reading off that script that had just been made by AI. And then it also had all sorts of, for this project, we didn't use AI generated like video or B-roll or anything, but we were able to type in, like, this is the country we want, so like give us B-roll on that. And so we just inserted it into where we wanted. So this video that could have taken a really long time to make, we were making in just a couple of hours, and then we were able to talk with the team who was actually asking for this video, and they were able to say, oh well, we like this, but we wanted it to go in this direction, or we hadn't even thought about that, but that's what AI gave us in the script, and so we kept it. And then we also, just kept the human in the loop, and and making sure that if we saw a temple, it's like, oh, I don't think that's in that part of the world. We were checking that manually, but it's right. And so, but it sped up the process so much by just every step that we were using it in.
Yeah, and so I will say what we were trying to get back to the team was a draft. Then the human in our prayer office, like, they could go back and write the right prayer and make sure everything was right. But we were able to, and we've gotten it now to where you can just type in a name of a country, and because we've perfected the app or the AI tool so well that it'll create that. It'll give you a draft in just a few minutes of a video, 90 seconds, exactly 90 seconds. Always starts here, always ends here, and then the B-roll suggestions that come up. We have AI. The B-roll is real B-roll, but it sucks it in through this really cool tool that we use. So that's one example, but I would say always having humans involved in that process the videos would stink if we didn't have humans. The videos wouldn't even work if she and Aaron checked them, because she's never been to those countries. So it was like pulling in people. So, well, that's not those people. That's from the other side of the world. That's Latin America. So, but it helps the subject matter expert really do things a whole lot faster. So that was really a great project they were on this summer. And then we ended up not using those. But they're going to use them for something else. We built the tool, and now they're going to use it for a whole nother tool. So, yeah. No. So, AI, I mean, it can be, but it's, so try to get, how to not get into really, really technical. So, I'm going to just go for it. Most of the AI tools that you used are trained on pretty much everything that's on the internet. So there's like 70 billion parameter models, 405 billion parameters, meaning that if it's on the internet, it knows it. Like, the AI knows it. How to explain? So it's almost like, how does the brain work? Is kind of and I don't know how the brain works, but I know more about how the neural network that works in AI. So what's happened is the popular tools that you are using are built around a model. It's a model like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Meta has Llama. There's several different models, and those models have all of this knowledge. And you can just, we'll put it right here. That's that knowledge. And so what you're using when you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or one of these other tools is just an interface that helps you work with the data that's this knowledge base that's here. So there's no way to download the 405 billion parameter model. It wouldn't fit on a computer in this room. I mean, we could, it takes tons of computing space. So one of the ethical concerns we'll talk about later, but like the energy use and the data and what it's doing when we build these. I mean, these are bigger than Amazon fulfillment centers. These are enormous data centers that are running these models. So it's you're accessing them by usually going to a website, using an app on your phone, and that app is connecting to the AI. But the AI is not running locally on your machine or on your computer. I can download some of the smaller open source models, run them right on my machine, interact with the AI on my machine. That's probably not for most people to do. But you can. Those are not the better models. They're typically very small. If it would run on my computer, it's a pretty small model. But here's the problem. When it's running on my local computer, I can turn off the internet, do everything locally. My data never goes anywhere. There's no security concern. I'm golden. I can ask it anything I want, and nobody knows what I'm asking it. Nobody knows the data I'm putting in. I can put like my whole church roll in there, interact with it, no data leaks. The moment you connect to this model that's out there, there's, even if they say they're not training on your data, they probably are. And it's like, you know, why is Facebook free? Anybody have an idea why Facebook is free? Yes, you are the product. Your information. They're training on all that data that you're feeding it, and they're marketing, they're selling that data. And so this is the danger of some of the big models. I don't want to get into the negative stuff yet. That's 2 sessions from now. But there is a danger of people are putting stuff into these models that you really shouldn't be putting in there. And so at the IMB, we're really, really careful of security about what we can put into these models. And that's why we've been able or had to build some of our own stuff. Anyway, if I didn't answer that, I can try a little bit later. I got to think on how to answer it. Yeah. Okay. So you would need one. You already used the right term. What's our call to action? So what do we want people to do as a result of watching this ad? So this is more DE than AI, but we use AI in the DE. So DE is digital engagement. So you would determine what you want people to do. Do I want people to chat with digital responders who could respond to their questions? Do I want them to attend an event? Probably not going to happen because they're not connected to you. You may get Christians to come. You're not going to get lost people. You want them, the call to action is really important, and you define that. You can only have one. You can't have 15 things you want them to do. One thing. It could be watch a video. So decide what you're trying to accomplish. I can tell you that in some parts of the world, we spend about 2 cents per response, which is dirt cheap. Don't expect that here in the U.S. And I'm not talking about, like, we would have 70 million impressions. That's useless information. Like, because an impression is this. I just scanned right past your ad. That doesn't really get me anything. What we're looking for usually is conversations. So we had 77,000 conversations. We're looking at people watching videos. And so this video, how many, did they watch the video for 8 seconds and delete it? Or get off of it? Or did they watch a 4-minute gospel presentation, 95%? So it's really going to depend upon your area, your call to action, and then how do you evaluate success. You run A/B, so you may run 2 ads, see which one's responding well. $500 worth of ad spend a month, pretty good ad spend. I think you could get, with a good ad and a really clear call to action in the Birmingham market, you could probably get a lot of market penetration for that. Middle East, maybe not so much. In Africa, you could pretty much own the internet. I mean, it's crazy. Like our teams in Africa can run, we can spend $20 in a weekend in Kenya, and we can have 3,000 conversations come out of that. I mean, it's insane. So, but other parts of the world, it's more expensive. We can talk more about that. All right, I'm going to reset up my next presentation. If you got another question, throw them out, and I'm going to multitask. Hopefully. Any other questions? If you're raising your hand, I can't see it. All right, I'll ask the question then while I'm doing this. Are you positive on AI, negative on AI, or the verdict's still out? So how many of you are positive on AI? Wow, that number is significantly greater today than it was a year ago. How many of you are negative on AI? All right. Okay, and then that was kind of on the border. So here's a really cool data point. I don't want to ask how old you are, but I'm going to assume 20s. All right, very good. Well, it's a broad number. Interestingly, I think there's a perception out there that young people are super positive on AI and old people are pretty negative on AI. It's kind of the perception. So I'm teaching an AI class at William Carey University right now, and it's AI in Ministry, and it's a semester-long undergrad course. And I would say 2/3 of my students were negative towards AI. So I'm Gen X. So I think Gen Xers, we're like in the sweet spot. Like we've seen how to do it before computers, and we kind of know how to use computers. So we're kind of like in a really sweet spot because we actually know how to do stuff. Like we've actually changed the starter on our car because we read the manual. Like remember how we did that? We had like a Chilton's manual that you opened up. You know, anybody with me? You feel me? Yeah, like we did that. How do you change a starter on a car today? No, you don't. I mean, that's the thing. You take it to somebody else and they do it for you. If you do it, how do you do it? You YouTube it. Like you're not opening up a Chilton's manual. I don't even think you can buy Chilton's manuals anymore. But we're kind of the sweet spot. Like we've done it both sides. And I would say that now we don't even use YouTube. I go to AI. And I mean, I rewired an entire house with like smart switches and three-way and four-way switch. I didn't know how to do a four-way switch. I took a picture of it, took a picture of the other side, dropped it into an AI model and said, how do I do this? And it's like, oh, this is, and it explains everything to me. I didn't burn the house down. I actually changed like every light switch in my daughter's house like that. Now, I lived overseas for 21 years, so like that, code, it was different. It was different. So, all right, if I can just, while I'm doing this, if I can ask you, like, what is your negative to AI? You didn't mention the biggie that most people your age mention, which is, am I going to have a job? Maybe you already have a job, so you're not worried. You're not as much. But like my college students right now are like, what's going to be around? Like if the knowledge is growing that fast, what is it going to look like? And so we're actually going to talk about this in a little while, like for you as church leaders. This isn't just how do you make your PowerPoint faster, or how do you create a really cool video really fast, or how do I edit things faster? My challenge to you is going to be, how do we as a church respond to a community that no longer has work because jobs have been taken away? 2 years ago, I did this for our leadership team, and I said, AI is not coming for your job. Someone who knows how to use AI is coming for your job. So if you don't know how to use AI, You're like the reporter who is writing for the Birmingham News, which that doesn't exist anymore. So those jobs have gone away. Or the person who fixed horseshoes on horses in the 1800s in New York City. We don't have many of those anymore. So those jobs are going to go away. The good news is 60% of the jobs that exist today in the United States did not exist 75 years ago. I mean, so 60% of the jobs we do today didn't exist. These are all new jobs. I mean, we didn't have people who did the things that we do today. So I think there'll be some new jobs created, but I have changed my perspective on this. Say AI is coming for a lot of jobs, and those jobs are never coming back. Manufacturing jobs, that's going to be low-hanging fruit pretty soon with robotics and automation. It's already, like, if you look at the number of employees it takes now at U.S. Steel, my dad's still a worker, my granddad's still a worker, my aunts and uncles were still workers, my sister's still a worker. The number of workers they have working in steel mills today compared to what my parents were, minuscule. When robotics continue to grow and grow and grow, a lot of you are ministering in communities where people think that they're immune from AI doing this. You're not. It will impact every line of work. My wife's a nurse practitioner. She has to chart. She spends a lot of time charting after her patients. She had a scribe who would go around and scribe, take notes and scribe, and then my wife just have to go back and fix those. Scribe left. They did not replace the scribe. She uses an AI scribe that listens to all of the interview. Jennifer speaks out loud what she's doing. The AI takes all the notes. The charts are incredible. I mean, she's like, wow, this is so much more thorough. And here's the kicker. My wife is doing all this in Spanish, and because all of her clients are Spanish speakers, and it doesn't charting in English. And so Jennifer is able to go back really quickly, correct the things, edit it, hit done. It also does the billing. So all those billing codes that we had to remember, or I didn't never remember those, but like that's a whole job that's quickly going away. And it also does differential diagnostics. So, you're saying, hey, you said it was this. Could you consider that it may be this? So it actually is helping in the diagnostics piece of that. So humans in the loop significantly, but two less humans than were in the loop to begin with. So that would be a negative that we'll be looking at in our third hour of what are we going to do about that? How do we minister? What's our responsibility as a church to minister to people like that in those situations? So it's totally HIPAA compliant. Totally HIPAA compliant. So this is, we can get into this very, very specific. These models are not running in the same. So I have to deal with our HIPAA stuff at the IMB, so I'm very, very familiar with all the challenges around this. So I could get into how we do it, but we run our own private models, so the models are not public models. And the only way to get into the model is nobody else can get into them. So there are ways to fix the HIPAA concerns. Much better than the other electronic medical records issues that we have. All right, so I've managed to multitask and get this up. What is AI? How would you define AI? Well, that's a good one. Yeah, that's true. How would you define artificial intelligence? That's artificial? Okay. Intelligence run by a computer. That's good. Anybody else? Yeah. So it doesn't think. That's really good. And you'll hear me talk about, well, it's thinking about this. We talk about it all the time. You just got to get it to do this. And it's not really thinking, but it's like it's thinking. All right. What else? Okay, digital research assistant. Okay. Yep, created by a human, programmed by a human. Peanut butter and... Why did you say that? That's what comes next, right? That's what comes with peanut butter and jelly. So I've got a funny video that I did about tokenization and how AI is really working in the background. I can share it if you want it. It's really funny. I explain AI by using a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And so AI is really good at predicting what comes next. And that's really what it does. It is insanely good at knowing what comes next. It technically doesn't go out and get information. So like when we say what goes out and get it, well, if you've got it turned on to live searching on the internet, it can go out and do an internet search and bring that in. But it's as if it has all the information that's ever been known all at once, simultaneously. And it does this in these things called vector databases where information is going out in every direction at the same time. And I'm already going too deep into that. Just trust me. It is complicated how it actually operates. But it does have all of this knowledge source that it's constantly predicting responses from. So when I ask it to translate something, it is translating it, but it's doing that by predicting out what comes next. The weird thing is, so we think peanut butter and jelly, it is thinking, it's not thinking, but if it were thinking, it is simultaneously thinking about the next 900 pages that come. So it's not like word for word. Now the early models that we were using like 3 years ago, it was like, you could say, is this. It was like word by word thinking out what's coming next. Now it's getting the entire thing all at one time, and it's developing context for the whole thing. The newer models that we're using can take 2 million tokens, which is around 150 million, 1.5, 1.7 million words in the context. So you can say, here's the context. This is like, I don't know how many books that is. It's a lot of books of words. You can say, here's all this stuff, think about that, and give me an answer, and a few seconds later, it'll give you the answer back based upon all that. Earlier models, you could put like 3,000 words, that'd be it. That'd be the max. Actually, 900 words maybe would be the max. I like to say, well, AI is math. So a lot of the people who worked in AI 50, 60, 70 years ago, because that's when AI it didn't just start 4 years ago. It's really, really smart mathematicians. Hueytown High School here, Miss Bradbury was my calculus teacher, and remember sitting in calculus 2 going, Miss Bradbury, why are we learning this? Nobody's ever going to use this. People used it, and they're really smart people used trig and all these really complicated maths, and they created, this is where AI comes from. It's really just really complicated math. There's a few definitions here. So one is AI is a field of technology where we teach machines or computers to mimic human intelligences, understands behavior, it can learn, it can solve problems, it can learn from its experiences. And I can give you these presentations that are on my website, so if you don't want to take notes, you can get those later. So this is a really good definition. It can learn. AI can get better, and it can see patterns, and it can continue to get better. AI is getting computers to do some things that humans would normally do. That's a pretty good definition. And the last is AI is a system of machine learning that acts like humans. So up until recently, we've seen AI, what we've experienced it as kind of a chatbot, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking about chatbots, but I think that the future of AI is more in the area of robotics and things that robots and robotic type devices can do for us. They can just automate. Somebody asked me not long ago, well, how long will it be before it can wash my dishes? I would say that you're probably, well, certainly in our lifetimes, certainly, I would say probably in the next 10 years, you'll see maybe as quick as 5, but 5 to 10 years, you can find robots that'll run around $10,000 to $15,000 that could do many of those types of things. So right now, you can, for about $40,000, get robots that can do a lot of these things. It's not on scale, but I think when these things begin to come out, I mean, you can all of a sudden imagine like the roles of the work that can be done by robots that would really impact. Yeah, it'd be much better than Rosie for those of us who remember the Jetsons. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, we're already kind of living in the Jetsons age. I remember when we didn't have microwave food. I was telling my kids the other day, I don't think they really understood how big of a deal that was, but the fact that we can microwave a meal. I'm not saying that microwave meals are great for you, but I can remember the first person in our neighborhood getting a microwave. And do you remember that? No, you've always had microwaves, right? Yeah. So I think that's where we are. We're in a really exciting time when it comes to innovation and technology, but it's already hitting like this. Like the curve is very rapid. So I have a car that drives itself. I love it, and I know some of you are scared to death of Teslas, but I love it. Like, I can get in the car, I get in the driveway, I push the thing down twice, and it knows, oh, it's 8 in the morning, he's probably going to the office, and it just takes me to the office. And it passes people on the interstate, and it gets off, and it stops at the red light, and it does everything, pulls into the parking lot. That technology is not 100%, but it's getting there, and it's getting there very, very fast. Very fast. And so I think it's kind of an exciting time to think about all the things that are happening. And all right, let me tell you about what AI is not, because I do think it's really easy for us to go into negative places. So it's not conscious, and it's not sentient. It doesn't have feelings. Now, people can give examples. Well, there was this one AI that, it tried to bribe the person to not turn it off. Okay, it's how you program those tools. And so, don't do that. So the things that we're talking about are not that. And so I could build an AI that the whole purpose is self-preservation, but an AI in and of itself, without being programmed to do something like that, it does not have that ability. It's not conscious. It certainly doesn't have a soul, but it doesn't have feelings. It doesn't get offended. One of the best way we use AI when things were rolling out globally is, I told you we have these 70,000+ conversations a year. This year will be even more. A lot of those conversations are pretty brutal. Like, people will send you nudes or porn, or people will yell at you or scream Allah Akbar, or, just really mean stuff to our digital responders who are sitting there, hey, I want to pray for you, and all of a sudden, whoa, that's not what I wanted. And so now the AI can act as a filter. I call it like a triage nurse in an ER. The AI can see what's coming in and go, yeah, that's porn. That's probably not going to result in a good gospel conversation. And so the AI can interface with that person and answer questions. And then over here, this one has a higher probability, and the AI can immediately, this person really needs to talk to somebody right now, and it could send that person to a human responder that can chat with them. And so the cool thing is the AI doesn't get tempted, it doesn't get offended, it doesn't get mad when somebody yells at it. It actually can be annoyingly polite back if you build it like that. Like, we build it and say, oh, well, thank you for sharing that. Have you seen the Creation of Christ video? AI doesn't have emotions or intentions. We see like RoboCop and all these things from the movies. That's not how AI works. And I don't think those movies help us, because I think it gives a bad impression of what is actually happening in the AI. It doesn't have its own volition. It really operates upon programming and the data input. And so, can I build something over here that could be used for war and destruction? And yes, absolutely, you can do that. You can build an AI model that would do your targeting and say, this person, well, I'm not advocating for that. And I'm not saying that, there's a lot of stuff we could do that we shouldn't do. But there's like the 99% of the stuff that it can do that's, wow, that is actually a huge help. It actually picked up that there was a pulmonary embolism, and it wasn't just pneumonia. That's what happened to me. They misdiagnosed me. If AI had seen that image, it probably would have said, whoa, did you see the PE right there? So here's some other stuff you shouldn't be afraid of. It's not a surprise to God. So this is a weird, we'll get into some theology, and I've written a paper on this that you can download it and read it. Like, sometimes we think about things and we, oh man, what God must be thinking. Well, God's not surprised that AI is here. And actually, we would never be able to build AI tools or the things we're doing if God hadn't given us the ability to do that. Now, I say that, and I'm not saying, so therefore, everything AI has no problems. I mean, there are lots of books and magazines that probably should have never been published, but it doesn't surprise God that a fallen humanity used things in a way that it shouldn't have been used. So AI is not a surprise. We Christians, people in this room, should be leading the discussions about the ethical parts of AI, not Sam Altman and Elon Musk and all these other people making $1 trillion. I mean, they're going to have their opinions, and they are all about their fiduciary responsibility to the shareholder, and we should be speaking into the ethical concerns of that. So, yes. Yes, totally. Totally. Yeah. This is number one use of AI in 2024 and 2025. Anyone want to take a guess? Number one use globally. Therapy. What? What in the world? But number one, companionship, therapy, counseling. That's where people are going when they have a problem. Ask ChatGPT what I should do. No, we probably shouldn't be doing that. So again, this is like something that you pastors need to be shepherding your flocks to say, hey, here's how we're going to deal when people are struggling. Now, can you use AI in helping you? I built out a tool for one of our teams that's building out counseling models. But I'm opposed to, there are some people building out counseling tools, Christian counseling for AI. And I just really think there should be humans involved in that and not sending that out to the chatbot. So I think you had a question? So there's over 200,000 AI models that are open source on what's called huggingface.com, huggingface.io maybe. Hugging Face. If you've never heard of Hugging Face, you probably won't understand anything on Hugging Face. But it's a way that you can download and run your models locally, and they're open source, meaning anybody can use them pretty much for any reason. OpenAI is a company that owns probably the one that we know most about in the U.S. The Chinese government created something called DeepSeek, and they've got several, Quinn. There are several really good AI models that come out of China. So Meta has got Meta is open source up until now. We'll see if they continue that. Yeah, but I've heard rumors that 5 may end up not being so open. So there's several models. Claude, they're being integrated into much of. So Google owns Gemini. That's so right now you have like Alphabet, which owns Google, is like they're trying to be the leader. OpenAI is trying to get ChatGPT or their models to be the leader. Meta, Facebook is trying to do theirs. So you've got multiple of these models that are trying to lead out. It's interesting, like I talked about like the Chinese models, but there's some models out of France and different countries. You know, if you're trained mostly in English, you're obviously going to perform much better in English than you do in other languages. The best model for a little while that came out was this DeepSeek model out of China. That was open source. You could download it, and it wasn't phoning home or anything. It was proven like you could have your own version of that. And I wouldn't use the one coming out of China because everything you said was going back to China, and it was censoring how it would respond. But it became a model that could give you reasoning, could actually be more thought than just facts. So that's, yeah, so there's not one person that owns it. Every one of those companies that you mentioned and I mentioned, they want to be the one that owns it. So I would be very hesitant to have one company that owns it, and I certainly would not want the government owning. I wouldn't want our government to own it. No government should be running this. But there's a lot that goes into that. But anyway, we need to be involved in the ethical discussions. We need to be writing about this. We need to be educating people about this. We need to be talking about it. And we need to be showing them how they can use it ethically. AI is a tool. It's not a replacement for humanity. And so when the dollar or the yen or the franc or whatever it is that's driving us is the deciding factor, that will become what it will replace humans. And we need to see AI as a tool. We need to keep AI as a tool. And all right, so it's not Google. So Google gives links. AI gives answers. When you're using AI, you want to be very clear about your goal, what it is you're trying to ask it. You treat it like a conversation. So it's iterative. I love that word. I use it all the time. I find it a lot of people don't. Iterative just means you keep at it. You just keep trying. And so the very first thing you get back from, if you think about when you Google something, you get like a whole page of answers, and about 2/3 of them are like garbage. And, oh, there's a really good answer. But that's kind of the way AI is. You kind of keep interacting with it until you start getting what you're wanting. It gives you better and better answers the more you do it. AI can do, not just find. Like, I can tell AI to do something. I can put into the AI model that they built and say Albania. That was the first country we did. Albania. The AI then goes, looks in our database for people group information about Albania, brings that into the conversation. It can go to some other resources, bring that in, some local, some recent news, bring that in, bring in demographic information, and it can create a script for that prayer video explaining the people of Albania. And then it can suggest, here are the images you should choose to put in there. So it can do all that. It actually, at one point, we had it where it actually went out and made the video. Like, it made the first draft of the video, even chose the images, which were horrible. But it chose them, and it made the entire video. Like, 90-second video, done. Push one button, like 10 minutes later, you have a video done. So iteration is the key. You're the guide. Google is static, and I would say AI is more dynamic. You keep going through it. So it can adapt and customize content for your audience or tone. I can say, one of the tools I'm going to give you at the end of the day is, like, I want to research an area, and you can put in 35023. If you're from Hueytown, you know what that zip code is. And it can give you information about people who live in that zip code. And it'll go out and do the research and bring that in. It doesn't mean it's always 100% accurate, but boy, it's a lot better than going to the Hueytown Library and getting, trying to pull stuff in. It can get you a good start about that. AI is changing rapidly. So what I presented a few months ago in Montgomery and what I'm presenting today are very different. I taught my first AI course at William Carey last fall, teaching again this fall. I actually thought, oh, this is going to be so easy. I worked so hard on that course last fall because, you teach an Old Testament course. Old Testament doesn't change. Like, you can just teach that same course forever. Like, you just pretty much cashing it in at that point. AI, no. I didn't use any of the same books, and not one of my lectures from last year were reusable this year. So it's a year. Everything's changed. I don't get paid any extra. I just have to redo it every semester. So it's changing pretty quickly. Let me show you some videos that over the last 2 years, how video has changed in AI video creation. Before I do, anybody remember the Pope in the puffy jacket? That was the big controversy about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. Like, somebody made the Pope wearing this big, huge, white, puffy jacket, and that was a pretty big controversy. And now, man, I can make some really good videos, and they're scary good. All right, so here's October of last year. So before let me say, so her voice is actually with her lips. It's just how we're doing this. It's not showing up right. Just start it over again. I'm trying to stop it. So this is May 2024. Totally AI generated. That person does not exist. That voice doesn't exist. That was May 2024. Seems a lot more real than the first avatar that we did. So, this, I'm going to show you a couple of guys you may or may not know. Paul Chitwood and Todd Lafferty, the president of the IMB and the executive vice president. Oh wait, I've already shown you this. That's November 2024. So this was almost a year ago this video came out. And then this is Todd and Paul. So they're speaking Mandarin. They do not speak Mandarin. And in the original video we did, their lips were dubbed to the Mandarin. It looked too good. Like, it was like, that looks kind of freaky. So we actually dumbed down the video so that it looks like it's dubbed, because otherwise, I mean, I could do this in, I don't know, how many, 50, 60 languages we have? That I can make me or you speak whatever language. And so this is a tremendous help when we're doing some of the trainings that we have to do. So every month, we do something called, we have a monthly video that goes out to everybody in the organization. It's like a 30-minute, what's up, one team video. Except that a growing number of our people, English is not their primary language. And so it's a challenge for them to do that. So now we're able to offer these videos in multiple languages that they can watch it in the language that they would prefer to watch it in. We do test them and check them. I check the Spanish to make sure that it's saying what we think it is. Like once there was one that talked about doing your ER, your expense report. This was one you were working on. It said, make sure you turn in your expense report, and it says, make sure and go to the emergency room. And when you're at the emergency room, do this. And like, whoa, I don't think that's what it said. So I had to go back and fix those. But these are tools. The amount of money that it would cost for us to translate these videos is, I don't want to tell you how much money it would cost. Email communications that goes out to the field. We have a tool that we've built very specifically for our lingo. It knows the terms that we use when we say CMT, which means core missionary task. It doesn't just translate the letter CMT, it translates the concept of the core missionary task. So we built out this glossary, if you will, of all these words, and it knows who we are, and it speaks how we speak. A couple more. This was... Yeah, so you all see these on, I had to do one of this just for you. These are, in the audio, I hate that the lips aren't matching. So that's kind of a fun video. We're having a big meeting next week, so I made a series of these. And then I did this. This is also a huge one. Yeah, I should have done me instead of the baby. It's like midnight, I'll just throw the baby in there doing sign language. So this is still not there. The sign language piece is still coming along. Does any of you sign? All right. So, don't count my fingers. Like I said. So, remember iteration? Remember the word iteration? Like I iterated and I'm in the middle of iterating this one. I just wanted to get something out to kind of show you where we're headed. And this will be a tremendous, enormous help. This is still not like these other videos are text to audio, so I can just type it in and it gives you that. Not this. This is someone signs it, and then I impose my body on that person. So like if I had a person in a secure area who didn't need their face out, I could superimpose somebody else on them doing all the signing. sign language is very difficult because sign is not just your hands; it's everything. So, you had a question?
If it's a long text,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get off topic, but I just know that that's one of the elements for AI
Yeah.
why is that so common? If
It's just
a
hard.
thing, it's
I think hands are really hard and they're moving a lot, and so I could have fixed it if I'd have just done another iteration, but I didn't. It's midnight. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
With that being said, anyone can write a book. That doesn't make it true.
Yes. And everything on the internet, though, that's true.
Literally.
Yeah.
We have natural skepticism about certain mediums that just need to be converted to new mediums. Like,
Yeah.
I don't just magically trust everything you say because you're the guy with the microphone.
What?
You can tell.
But I'm ordained. Oh, never mind. Sorry. Wrong crowd. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, my absolute favorite. Yeah, I tell you, my favorite class in all the class I've ever taken was doctoral research and writing, because I had to retake it again because I waited so long to graduate, and so I was on the decades plan of a PhD, and I was overseas, so I'd take it again just after some of the election stuff about 10 years ago, and it's like, man, you all need to just really do a little research. Like, please don't repost that. And yeah, so if we could do like just some elementary research and writing for most of the people. How are you, those of you that say you're using AI, how are you using it right now? Oh. Oh, totally. Yes, yes, that's a great. I mean, you can spin up websites really quickly. You can edit images. You can do all sorts of stuff that used to have to hire people and spend a bunch of money. Yeah, yeah. Anybody else? How are you using it? Yeah, totally. I mean, it's my go-to. I told you I rewired my daughter's house using AI. Now I do know a little bit about electricity, so I would do not leave here thinking I know nothing about electricity. I can rewire my house. Don't do that. It may shock you how painful that could be. But there were some things that I'd never done before, and I know enough about it that, okay, I'm not doing that. So, and I know when to bring, like last night I told my daughter, yeah, you need to hire a professional. I'm only here for 4 hours. I can't do that. So troubleshooting's awesome way to do it. I do it a lot for iteration and ideas. Like, I'm trying to figure out what would be a good way to present this topic to this group, and it would give me about 15 ideas. Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I've got a really cool. Yeah. All right. We're about to end of this. We're about to go to break. Anybody else want to give some ideas how you're using it? Totally. Proofread, man, I would have loved to have had AI when I wrote my dissertation. Whew, that would have been a lot easier. I can tell you a couple ways I used it. Created something called FaithBot. It's on your table. If you scan your phone, it'll open up an AI tool. Do that later. I was at our church, and my pastor was preaching. He preached, and afterwards, I thought, I wonder how good I like that sermon. That was pretty good. I wonder what FaithBot thinks about his sermon. So I took his sermon, and I dropped it into FaithBot, and I said, evaluate this sermon. Pastors? Yeah, your wife, you think your wife's brutal. AI doesn't have any filter. It came back and it said, this is a great sermon. I actually enjoyed the fact that he talked about the sufficiency of Christ, and Christ is the only way, and it just gave like paragraphs of feedback. And it had one little thing, it was a tweet, and it was okay. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was great. I sent it to Monte, our pastor. I said, hey, just so you know, FaithBot thing I built, yeah, I put your sermon in there. He said, oh, no. And I said, I sent him what it said. He's like, wow, that's super encouraging. He said, that's awesome. He said, but I bet it says that about everybody. I got thinking, well, maybe it does. So then I went and I downloaded Joel Osteen's sermon from the same Sunday, and I dropped it in. And it says, I kid you not, I can bring it up. I can show it to you. I cannot endorse this pastor. And it went in and it goes through, this pastor is teaching that all God cares about is man's prosperity. There is nothing about salvation by grace. There's nothing about sacrifice of Christ. And it just ripped him. And I sent it to Joel Osteen, and I've not heard back. No, I didn't send it to I didn't send it to Joel Osteen. But it's like, that's kind of a cool thing. I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. Like, if I'm preaching, I could drop it in and say, what did I say? And so now when I write, I do a lot of writing about faith and AI. And when I finish writing, I drop it in and I say, evaluate this. This is going to get me fired. And then, I can say some stupid stuff sometimes, and I don't want to get a phone call saying, hey, you shouldn't have said that. And so it'd tell me, hey, this is something you might want to tone down. Somebody might interpret you saying this. I don't have that live right here, so you're just getting me. I don't have a filter. And Frank's known me long enough to know that I really don't have much of a filter to begin with. My daughter's in school. She wrote me last week. I love it when my kids ask me to do AI stuff for them. My son in pharmacy school said, hey, I got this exam. Here's all my lectures. Can you create a chatbot to help me? My daughter's in school last week. She wrote me and said, hey, can you, I've got this science test on Thursday. Can you take all these lectures? So you send me all these videos of lectures, all these PowerPoints, and these 5 chapters from this book and create a study guide. I'm like, no, I can do you one better. I can do one that will quiz you constantly, and it figures out where you're weak, and it just keeps driving you on that. And I told her I want to sell that to the class, because it's one of those classes got 150 people. There's probably 8 sections. I'm like, they just each of them buy me coffee. That'd be good. She didn't like that idea, so she just gave it away to everybody. So Mississippi State, I'm expecting like a standing ovation when I walk in the stadium tomorrow. But there's all sorts of ways that we're using AI. I use it in my personal life like that. It's just really fun. So FaithBot's on your table. We're going to take a 15-minute break. And if you want to play around with FaithBot, you can either scan that QR code or you can tap your phone, just like you're at Walgreens and you're paying with your phone. Those of you who do that, you just tap it, and it'll open up an AI tool, and you can ask it any question, and it'll give you an answer always from a Christian worldview, Christian perspective. All right? Let's take funny, but is AI in the Bible? I always get this. Is AI in the Bible? Yes, AI is in the Bible. You know where? Shut up. No, not Jericho, but watch this. This is Joshua. And the Lord said to Joshua, do not fear, and do not be dismayed. Take with you all the people of war, and arise. Go up to AI.